don't get the microphone.
Yeah.
So there's,
So citizens can come and speak up. And
Yes.
if they don't get answers that they like, I'm going to remind people that they're going to have another solution possible, and that's to vote for a new mayor. Andrew
Who's that?
Richter.
Oh, me.
Andrew Richter has
That's right.
decided to run for mayor next year.
And I'll tell you, we're going to get into solutions for what we can do. And I think the biggest thing that we're going to have to push, I just have no faith that this council or any council around here, they're going to need you, the people, to rein them in. And I think the best way to do that is to force the city to pass a levy, that the citizens get to set the max levy. Because we've seen, with the claims that they're going to cut the budget, how they're not cutting services and they're not cutting people and they're certainly not cutting the ridiculous salaries that are being paid to the administration. And if they're not willing to do any of that, then I think the only thing left for us is to give you the keys to the combination to the city safe. And that levy needs to include special assessments and things like that. That can't just be, because you can come and complain all you want, but chances are by the time they come with a special assessment or the budget, they've been talking about it for how long? The decision's made already. You can come and whine and cry, but they're, oh, well, hey, you know what? We had a work session on it in 2006, and you should have been there then. That's what they'll tell you. And that's what they'll tell you at the Truth and Taxation hearing, too. They'll tell you how sorry they are and that they feel your pain, but, oh, well, you didn't show up at a work session in July, so screw you.
Yeah. So the best time to start is now. I mean, doesn't matter what happened in the past. We're obviously not going to go back and reclaim what we lost there until we just decide to draw a line in the sand and say enough, and we start to get involved here and now. And we all are busy and we have things going on, but this city is in an acquisition mode. Total assets have gone up. From 2008, they had 99.7 million in assets to 117.4 million in 2010. It's gobbling up assets
$117 million in assets.
They're in a growth phase. Well, we're all in a recession, and many of us aren't working. Many of us are trying to just make ends meet, with peanut butter going up 40% a couple weeks ago.
Exactly.
And they're just buying things and holding them and acquiring, and we need to say enough, and we need to be involved. And the meetings are boring to sit through. I got it.
Is it time for an Occupy Crystal movement?
Well, it could be, since Mayor Bowman endorsed the Occupy Minnesota protest.
Maybe I'll have to go home and get my hammer and sickle.
Maybe it's time to have maybe it's time to have. But I think the big thing too is that this council just seems to have no answers for why these costs continue to go up, and they have no answers for what they're going to do to fix them. You can have, and I think the correct goal, by the way, is to get off LGA.
Yeah.
But to me, I still think they think LGA is free money, and they still think LGA is their entitlement. And until that gets out of people's heads, and it's going to take more than me. I mean, we have council people who've been there for 4 terms. These people aren't going to bring anything new to the table.
Yep. If they haven't fixed it yet, what makes you think they're going to in their next term? You're going to keep getting what you've got until you fix it. And that's just the reality of it. That's the truth that we've all got to live with, that we're not happy with it. Well, the same people are going to keep bringing the same solutions to the table.
Right, and how many times have we seen council people run unopposed? How many times have we seen candidates where I can't get a dime's bit of difference between any of them? They all pretty much say the same thing. I'm the candidate who's going to listen. I'm the candidate who's going to, lower those expenses but keep those essential services. Well, according to the city, everything's essential. What's non-essential?
I guess it all is. I mean, they're not cutting any of it, right?
Right, but if you operate from that philosophy, how then do you reduce government if everything you do is, I'll give you an example. When I was at the Truth and Taxation hearing last year, now I didn't speak, so I gave the council a break, But one of our council people, Lori Ann Moore, who isn't there any longer, said, well, we have to make sure as a council that when you dial 911, somebody's there to pick up the phone. I'm going, who's saying that? It's the scare tactics that
Right,
come out.
right.
Nobody's going to plow your street if we cut the budget. Nobody's going to.
They always bring up worst case scenarios. Yeah, there's not going to be a fireman there when you call. There's not going to be a policeman when your home is being broken into. That's all smokescreen. That's straw man.
So using that to justify. And besides, when you look at their spending, who's making more money? The fireman who's running into a burning building, or the administrative person drawing up finances? I mean,
Well, that brings up salaries. Do we know what the salaries of our city employees are?
Well, we do to a certain extent. We mentioned the statute, Minnesota State Statute 471.701 requires cities of 15,000 or more people to publish their top 3 salaried employees.
And that's only cities that exceed that 15,000 that have to say anything about the salaries.
Right. Like Robbinsdale, for example, does not have to say anything publicly. You're not entitled to anything as to what salaries are being paid. And it's very interesting to see who and what they're making. Just as an example, Crystal as an example, the top 3 employees are the city manager, who basically is the appointed bureaucrat who runs the city, the finance director. Both of them have deputies, by the way, and the community development director, who has a city planner. Now, why a fully developed city needs both positions, I don't get. They combine to make $335,000 a year, not including benefits. And you contrast that with New Hope, a city the same population as Crystal. Those 3 employees make $50,000 a year less. So explain that when they say there's nothing. What are you talking about?
There's plenty to cut. I mean, you've got a deputy under the finance director, and you've got an assistant under the city manager.
You've got a full-time HR benefits specialist.
Yeah.
Even in the police department, I think we can all agree police and fire is an essential local government service.
yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
However, that doesn't mean they're immune to looking in their budget. You look in the police budget, look at how it's structured. Police chief, deputy police chief, 2 lieutenants, 4 sergeants. I'd rather have the money being spent on the feet on the street than now you got to have some supervision, but they have a full-time, I think it's a full-time juvenile specialist. They have, I think, 3 office record keepers or something like that. That is all under that police budget. So I mean, why can't we look at that structure and say, is this the best, most efficient way to use the police department? I mean, I don't even hear that conversation.
Right, and we're not talking, like you say, about cutting back on police officers. We're talking about cutting back on administrative expense.
Right. And they want to spend more. I mean, with police and fire, I mean, do you see any cuts coming?
No, not with we should mention that Crystal's pulling out of the West. That's kind of breaking news.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know how that saves us money. I'm a shared service.
Well, if they pull out of a shared service, that means they're going to have to pay for the full cost of their own service.
Right. So that means hiring our own police chief, our own deputy police chief, having our own. West Metro Fire just spent $2.5 million on fire trucks over the last 4 or 5 years. Who owns them?
Who gets them? Yeah.
So, but the point is that that's an essential part of government. But how much we spend and how we allocate that has got to be up for debate.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think no matter how much it is, whether we're spending 5 cents on something or we're spending $39 million on something, we have to have that discussion, and we're not. We're being told this is what we're spending. Get used to it because we make the rules.
And I think we need your help out there. We need more people to enter the discussion, more people to take a look at some of the numbers that are going to affect your property taxes next year and ask hard questions to the city council and the mayor.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, you people in Golden Valley really need to start asking some questions. There are 8 employees in Golden Valley making $100 grand or more.
8.
Yeah, the city, and I'm not sure because there are steps
Okay.
that they attain, not like a union. It's not a step every year, but they potentially have 8. And their city manager makes about 135 a year. And Golden Valley doesn't really have much more people than we do. So,
No.
where is, again, when they sit there and they tell you there's nothing they can do, I'm sorry, can the community development director get by on 97.5?
Yeah.
Well, we have 10% unemployment in the private sector.
Right,
Well,
exactly.
So
Well,
we'll get to those meetings, and if you can't, send an email, make a phone call. Look, government left to itself is going to take care of itself. That's what we've got to get out there. That if an informed public is the best watchdog anywhere on government.
Yeah. Thomas Jefferson said, "You'll get as much tyranny as you're willing to put up with."
Yes, and the road to hell is paved with good intentions. That's another
There you
one
go.
of my favorites.
and remember Andrew Richter for mayor of Crystal next year. Anyway, we're about out of time, so I think we're going to wrap up for this session. Thank you for paying attention.